All right, we are here at Heartland Sports. I have my friend Eric here on the line, and we're going to talk about the NHL teams and basically what we got planned and where we see these teams going in the future based on where they're at right now in the standings. So, Eric, how you doing today?
Doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing good. So, we'll start with the Central. We got the St. Louis Blues currently sitting 39, 17, and 10. And first in the Central with 88 points. So, what's your feedback on how they performed so far?
Well, you've neglected to mention that they are the defending Stanley Cup champion, St. Louis Blues.
That is true.
So I'm no way, shape, or form surprised that they're in first place in the Central. It's pretty obvious to the average hockey fan that the Central Division is the worst in hockey. If you're a fan of any team in there, apologies, but let's be frank here, that division's garbage.
That is true.
The Blues didn't really lose anybody in free agency this year, and yeah, they did lose Tarasenko early on in the season, but other than that, they haven't really suffered any major injuries until recently. But even then, it's been more depth players other than Tarasenko. So yeah, I expect them. They're where they should be, in my opinion. How about yourself?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't think they were going to be doing this good this season. I mean, obviously they came after the Cup last year, but I'm one of those people that kind of think their run last year was kind of a luck. So
Yeah.
Obviously no Bowmister because of that issue that he had, and that's going to be a little setback for him. But they still have the potential to go as far as they can go, even if it's the final again with the way they are right now. So.
I mean, don't forget, Tarasenko probably will be back come, mid-April are they saying? If not,
something like that
late
around
March.
there. Mm-hmm.
So that's huge for them. That's a leader on the team coming to a team that's currently one of the hottest teams in hockey.
That's true. So, yeah, we'll see what the Blues have. And moving on, we have the Colorado Avalanche. Currently 39, 18, and 7 going into tonight. This is March 1st. And 85 points, only 3 points behind the Central Division leaders. What's your thoughts on them?
So Colorado has been a team at adversity this year. They've suffered a lot of injuries. Landeskog went down early on in the season, and he missed 3 weeks a month. Obviously, Mikko Rantanen's been out for a while now, and he's not expected to return until right around playoff time.
Right.
Cal McCarr is their, amazing rookie right now, but he, don't forget, had an injury that caused him to miss a few weeks. And, of course, their goaltending has been their biggest weakness. That team can score. I'm a little surprised that they're right behind the Blues given all the injuries they've had. But at the same time, it's not that surprising because the firepower in offense and one player, Nathan MacKinnon, is keeping them alive.
True. That's very true. I mean, McKinnon with McCarr, because McCarr came in the playoffs last year for his first time right out of college. And, just look how many playoff goals. He got a couple goals last year in the playoffs, and now he's just fine with him, McKinnon. So they have so much potential, and honestly, I could see him going pretty far. Just a matter of will they be able to sustain the consistency they have, because I'm trying to think, do they have any current injuries that are...
Mikko Rantanen.
Oh, he is still...
One.
Yeah, it was him.
Because he's on the injured reserve. But other than him, no one's really coming to mind for any huge injuries.
Right, but they're definitely one of the teams I would say that's on the rise.
I would say expect Colorado. This is a bold prediction. Expect Colorado to have a Stanley Cup within the next 5 years if that core stays together and you don't have any drama behind the scenes.
True.
It's a young, talented team with leaders.
All right. So moving on down to the third in the Central, we got the Dallas Stars. Now this is a big team because this is a team that can go either way. They can either go for it and go all the way, or they can completely slack off like they sort of did last year. But now they're in third place in the Metro with 81 points, and they're looking good. They've lost their last 2 games up until the 1st of March today, but in their last 2, they're 6-2-2. So, not sure what your thoughts are there, but I'm curious, where do you see him as finishing up this season?
Dallas is an interesting team as well. Dallas is kind of, like you said, they can go either way. They win some big games, but they lose some big games.
Right.
This is a team that I see in the playoffs, and they should make the playoffs because, again, the top 3 seeds in each division make the playoffs. So right now, they would have an interesting matchup, but they're so far ahead of Nashville that I think they're in, but I don't think they're going to do well. But this is the same Dallas team that earlier in February defeated Carolina, defeated Toronto, and then somehow managed to, within the same week, lose to Ottawa.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about this team.
Right.
They're hit or miss. They have a lot of veteran players who know how to play, but at the same time, veteran players are more prone to injuries. So I'm not sold on Dallas. I think this is Dallas's really their last year to make a stand, and I don't think they're going to do it. What are your thoughts on them?
I'm sort of the same way, but I think they do have potential maybe next season, the season after, but at the same time, it is kind of a hit or miss this year because it's just tough to say. I mean, the way they're playing is good. They're producing power play goals. They're doing decent on the penalty kill. They're not terrible, but it's just a matter of making. I mean, last year I'm trying to think. Did they make the playoffs? I think they made
the playoffs last year.
Who did they lose to? I'm trying to remember. I have to look it up on there.
I'll pull that up real quick.
But I'm pretty sure they'll make it into playoffs. I mean, looking at the current playoff odds right now, the Dallas Stars, according to MoneyPuck.com, have a 98% chance of making the playoffs. So it's looking pretty good.
So I don't know how we both forgot this. They did knock off Nashville in the first round because, remember, they were the wild card. Nashville had won the Central. And then they got beat by the Blues.
That's interesting because the next person right below them happens to be the Nashville Predators.
Oh, Nashville.
Currently sitting 64 games played, 72 points. So they're definitely back below the Dallas Stars. They're fighting for a playoff spot. 6-3-1 their last 10. They've lost their last game. They're an iffy one, and I feel like they're going to be just out of it, to be honest. I'm not sure what you think, but
I agree.
They're definitely, in my opinion, they've definitely been pushing and fighting. I mean, they got Pecorino in goal. They got Saros as well, and they got good players, but I just think it's not going to be enough for this year at least.
Even if they make the playoffs this year, I don't see them necessarily making a run just because they're not built to make a deep run in this playoff. They have a lot of older players that they're relying on and a lot of younger guys they're trying to rely on. They don't have that wow factor. Is there truly a superstar on this team that you can think of right now if you're not a big hockey fan? Because people don't know who Philip Forsberg is.
Right.
He's not a big name yet. They got rid of PK Subban, which we'll get to him later. That was a good move on their part.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't care about defensemen because defensemen don't score goals. Can Nashville disprove that? I don't think so. You can have the best defense in hockey, but the fact is, if you don't score goals, you're not going to win. Surprisingly, and this might be a surprise, they are among the league leaders in goals. They are one of the teams above 200, I should say. They're in the middle of the pack. I was not expecting that, but they have some potential, but not a big playoff run. What's your thought on Nashville? You think they can make a run this year? In all honesty,
honestly, no. Like I said, I think they're going to be just up. You're right, which you said they're 204 goals for and 204 goals against. Which is third in the Central compared to the Stars that have only gone 177 for. So I just think they're just going to be out of it, just barely, to be honest. But I think next year, I don't know, we'd have to see what they do over the summer. Because, I mean, like I said, they got Forsberg. Duchesne has been on and off. Sometimes he's producing, sometimes he's not a consistent matter. And somebody that will consistently be there and provide them a comforting set of points to get them into the playoff spot. So I'm going to say that they're just going to be right out of it and just outside the second wild card, to be honest. All right, so moving on, we got the Central Division spot number 5, occupied by none other than the Winnipeg Jets, which of course used to be the Atlanta Thrashers, as we all know. Currently sitting.
Okay, Atlanta kid. Okay.
Currently sitting at 72 points, 4-5-1 in their last 10, and yeah, they're tied with Predators in points at the moment, but obviously that's going to change because games are being played tonight. But they're ones that I would feel have a chance of passing the Predators, but it's too questionable for me whether or not they'll make the playoffs, sir.
You didn't see that they played 3 more games than the Predators.
That's true. That's 67, 64 for the Predators. You're right.
So that, in my opinion, that really hurts them. Winnipeg's coming off that East Coast trip as well, where I think they dropped all 4 of the games they played. No, because they played Ottawa. Yeah, they played Ottawa early on, killed them, and then they lost to Philly, lost to Buffalo, and lost to the Capitals. So it's kind of, they're hit or miss. I am surprised that they're doing so good. Just because the whole Dustin Buckland situation, I don't know what the heck's going on with that. I don't think anybody knows.
Right.
The fact that he wears that alternate A on his jersey really him not showing up really hurt that team's defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Dustin Buckland should have just suited up, but they're one of the teams that definitely is going to have had a fall from grace from last year, and it's a shame, but I think they can rebound in the future. This year, I can see them surpassing Nashville, but I think they're going to need a lot of help to make a decent run in the playoffs and not be a team that plays 5 games and goes home.
Right. It's interesting how you bring that up, all that stats, because trailing right below them, the Minnesota Wild, and by the way, my opinion about the Jets, similar to yours, but it's one of those things where you have to see like the Dallas Stars. But the Minnesota Wild sitting just below them, 1 point behind them, because the Predators and Jets at this moment are deadlocked at 72 points, but they have won their last 3 games. So they're currently on a 3-game winning streak, 6-3-1 in their last 10, just like the Nashville Predators. So they could actually be a team to watch. So they're currently trailing the Washington Capitals in the current game 3-2 after the first. I mean, in my opinion, they definitely have a shot at it. It's yours.
Right. Everyone has a shot at it right now, except for Detroit. To my knowledge, they're still the only team that's been eliminated, which is just completely embarrassing if you're a Detroit fan.
We'll get
there. But they're good, but Minnesota is in an awful situation when it comes to your salary cap. Minnesota should never have doubled down with Zach Parise and what the heck's the defenseman's name that they signed from Nashville that year too? Ryan Suter.
Right, sure. Mm-hmm.
They never should have doubled down and signed those 2 guys to, 13-year contracts?
Mm-hmm. It's extensive. Mm-hmm.
That's just, I'm sorry, in hockey, that doesn't make any sense. And what that did is it forced them to give up a lot of big prospects. They had to let guys go that they should have kept. So Minnesota should be better than they are, but they're going to be middle ground for the next few years. They're too good to tank, but they're not good enough to compete for a cup. That's my stance on them. They're too good to be bad, but they're not good enough to be good.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay, we'll have to see. Definitely, if they win this game tonight against the Capitals, that might prove a little more that they can definitely put the foot down the pedal to try to get into the playoffs. Obviously, they sit outside of it right now, but so this now brings us to a last team in the Central at the bottom. And actually, we're gonna finish this. Right. Before we get to this team, because I know we have a little bit to say, I'm just going to say that we're going to end this video after the Central Division here, and we'll post them by divisions, because I actually didn't realize the time was going to be this long. But so yeah, this will be a Central Division breakdown. But all right, so let's get into it. I'll start first. So we have the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, keep in mind, 66 points compared to the Wild that have 71, so they're not completely out of reach. Obviously, the games are winding down. They've won their last 2 games. They are 4-6 in their last 10. And currently their record is 29, 28, and 8 overtime losses or shootout losses. So my opinion, obviously, I'm just going to say no. I don't think they're going to get back in it enough to win it. Obviously, they have good players. They have Taves. They have Patrick Kane that occasionally. So in my opinion with the Chicago Blackhawks, I feel like they just get spurts. Like they get these little 2 or 3 games where they play phenomenal like they did when they won the cup back a couple of years ago, 3 cups or whatever. I just think personally that they're just booking spurts of 2 or 3 games here and there, and then they drop 5 in a row or something, or they lose 5 in a row, maybe get 1 point in an overtime or something. But I just don't think their consistency isn't there, obviously, to the point where obviously they were looking worse than they did now, actually, a month ago. But back in November, they were right up in the middle of the thing, and now this kind of dropped down. And obviously, with the goalie situation, you know, they got Corey Crawford. I'm trying to think what the other guy's name is. Subban, because they just got him in a trade for Lehner, because they sent Lehner to Vegas.
They trade Lehner, and they get Subban. Malcolm Subban, for those of you wondering.
Yes, so, yeah, my opinion, my overall opinion is just they're not going to have enough push to get into the playoffs, and they're not consistent enough where it's proven playoff worthy for this year. So, what about you? Curious.
They have the veteran talent. They have the veteran leadership. They have a veteran goaltender. However, that's irrelevant because their veteran players are showing their age. You know, that's Duncan Keith is nowhere near what he was a few years ago.
Of course, you're right, yeah.
Patrick Kane isn't what he was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with them is they tied themselves into some longer-term contracts, and these guys, with no trade clauses, these guys aren't going to get traded. You can't cut them. You know, they're being very... What they're doing is they're keeping themselves in a bad situation, but you really can't do anything because if you try to cut these guys, you're just going to make a lot of agents and a lot of players mad, which will hurt your team in the future. I think they should not have fired Quenneville, but at the same time, they kind of had to.
Right.
Because he was getting stale with the team in the city.
That's true.
But this team is very interesting because this is a team that... You know, I'm just pulled up their February schedule. You know, plays Boston, takes them to overtime and gets the loss, and then goes on the road for 5 straight games, dropping 4 of them against Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Winnipeg. But then they win 1 road game against the Calgary Flames by a final score of 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
That sums up the Blackhawks perfectly. They are so bad at times, but they are so good at times. Nothing clicks 100% of the time for them. And I think the trading of Lehner and Gustafsson really just signals that they're throwing the white flag in for this year. They're going to be... I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're all but eliminated.
Well, so here's the thing. At the same time, like you said, it's like they need to have a rebuild because... Obviously, like you said, the old players that they had to use to win the dynasty or whatever back in, you know, the early 2010s or whatever, they're all wearing down. So they need a reboot. I mean, other teams will talk about, like Carolina, like already started that like 2 seasons ago, and they're slowly getting back to pace. But, you know, it takes time. It takes a few seasons, if not more, to, you know, get those players to not only grow older, but get more mature and get used to the game where they can get to a point where they're actually producing and showing that they're worthy of a playoff team. So I do have the stats of last year where the Chicago Blackhawks finished, and they finished last year with 84 points, with a record of 36, 34, and 12. And obviously, currently right now they're at 66 points. So honestly, looking at the track record, it's not going to be much different than last year.
Right.
Um, that's really all I have to say about the Blackhawks. You have anything else to add about the Blackhawks, or any other comments about the Central Division?
The Central Division is shaping up pretty much exactly how I envisioned it. If anything, I think I saw Winnipeg behind Minnesota, but at the same time, they played 3 more games right now, so it is possible that by the end of their recording, the Wild might be above Winnipeg, and that's just because of the whole defenseman situation in Winnipeg. But the Central Division looks how I expected it to.
All right.
Pretty much.
All right. I appreciate you talking with me, Eric. This is a wrap up of the Central Division. We're breaking down. We just break down every team pretty much and what their futures look like for the remainder of the season. Obviously, what their past has shown briefly. So, thanks for talking to you, Eric, and.
It was a pleasure.
And stay tuned for our next video, which would be out soon after this one, about the Pacific Division. Appreciate it.